supportive to all of us for the TiE Young Entrepreneur Program, which has been running for many years. It's been, I think, Madan, 15 years that it's been going all over the world. It's impacted thousands of students, but and equally importantly, the parents have been very delighted at the kind of impact that this program has had on their children. So, talking about TiE Young Entrepreneur Program, which Bangalore and so many other chapters are doing, Madan, who's our charter member, and also we would like to talk to you about how it has helped us and why we have someone like Richa, we have someone like Ved, we have Angad, who will talk about their journey and why they want to be young entrepreneurs, why they want to start up, and what and all is happening in their lives as well. So, Madan, without further ado, yes, we will be talking about the TiE Young Entrepreneur Program, but more importantly about startups, about the ecosystem, and about the community. So over to you, sir. I'm going to be an audience now. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijeta Lakshmi. Thanks for hosting us, and welcome everybody. Delighted to be here with all of you. This is my Friday evening high. When I get to interact with young people like you, I forget my age. Of course, the video reminds me of my hair, which is the double whammy that I got of starting off early and getting married at the same time. So that's an advice. Don't do that. Don't do two dangerous stunts at the same time. I mean, of course, you guys are too young to think about that, but that's an advice for the future. But wonderful to be here. Uh, I'd love to welcome Richa, our guest for the evening. Richa is a person I've known for several years now, and when we were talking about social entrepreneurship and doing this evening event, Richa was the first name that popped up in my head, and I called up, pinged Richa and checked, hey, are you around on Friday evening? She said, absolutely. So, Richa, delighted to have you with us. Richa is a social entrepreneur, and she'll talk about her journey.
Thank you.
A young entrepreneur, I must say. Ved and Angad, welcome again, and thank you for joining us. I know, this is evening time, study time for all of you guys, and I know you've given up on your studies to be here. Of course, just pulling your legs. I know this is a good excuse for us to get out of that routine, but really glad to have you with us, and it was wonderful interacting with you at TYE last year, and look forward to hearing about your journeys this evening. The format that we have, folks, is we'll just have a conversation. I'll invite Richa to share her journey so far and what inspires her more as a conversation. Then I will pull in Ved and Angad to talk about their journey, and we'll have a conversation and we'll open it up for Q&A for the last 10-15 minutes. Any of you have any questions, please put it up in the chat box, which will come to me, and I'll take that up. But let me not stay between you and the main course for the evening, which is to hear from our young guests on the show. So, Richa, over to you. Love to listen to your story and where you are and what would you and where would you like to go? I know you're going to Harvard very soon, but that apart.
Thank you so much, Madan, first of all, for having me and for thinking of me. Thank you, Vijeta, Lakshmi, for having me here, and especially Ved and Angad, because this is really for you. So congratulations and thank you for having me again. I think a couple minutes back, Madan, you asked me that you're going to share a little bit about your journey, and it got me thinking. I usually hear so many inspiring entrepreneurs such as you, and I always think, oh, that's like a really amazing thing that they said, and I was like, what is going to be my hook? But I said, I'll just share my journey and let's see what happens and not think too much. I think I would really start by saying that I co-founded Labdhya, my nonprofit, when I was 19 or 20 years old. And up to that point, I think it's really important to note that I, at no point in my life, had imagined myself being an entrepreneur. And I had never thought of myself as an entrepreneur. I never thought I had the potential to be one. And I think that's important to note, not because it's a sad thing, but because there are many things and many points in my life up till then that led to me realizing that I actually am an entrepreneur, or I'm able to get on that journey. And I think the number one reason has definitely been my father. And that's because I was born and brought up in Zambia. I spent the first 10 years of my life in a country where no one in my classroom looked like me. The culture was very, very different and very positive, but also very different from and very far away from the culture I had at home. Which led me to have like this dual life where I was an introvert everywhere, but I was slightly more outward at home. And I think I've always seen my father stand up for and do things for himself despite of what the world around him is telling him, starting from his entire family being of doctors and he doing management and saying no, actually I want to get into computers in an era where computers were just entering the country, and really taking that leap of faith. Or whether it was when we had a financial crisis and he started something of his own, and he did it almost like it was his instinct. And he also didn't see himself as an entrepreneur, I think. And I think those are the things that sort of built up to build more acceptance of myself inside me, which I think is the number one reason I'm an entrepreneur today. It's all right for me not to be the loudest one in the room. It's all right for me, not to be speaking all the time. It's all right for me to be me, and that is, I think, the unapologetic self that I bring to entrepreneurship. I think the second reason that led to me being an entrepreneur was children. And it was only by chance. I was in college doing my undergraduate. I was very clear after school that classrooms are not my space. I need to get out. If I have to do something, I have to know who is richer. And I think that's when I started interning in various places, and started working with communities. My first experience working with children was in a Rohingya refugee community. And it's important to also note that my parents were very, very strict and protective. I'm the only child, and I'm a late born. So one trick that I always, and this is for everyone who has strict parents out there, take your parents with you everywhere. Just take them with you. So I took them to my first community visit with me. And of course, they were a little uncomfortable, but they knew what I did was meaningful, and I sought meaning in it. And that really increased their investment. And so I walked into the community saying, oh, there's all of these problems. There's a sewage problem, there's a market problem, etc., etc. And we're going to fix everything. And when we walk out of this community, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be this multiplex. And that's really funny because after the first conversation I had with a child in the community, I pretty much knew that the most I will ever be able to do over there is to probably just listen and listen authentically. And spending 1.5 years in the refugee community over there, on my last day, I remember speaking with this 12-year-old girl, and I said, okay, so where do you see yourself in the future, in 10 years? And I had done a bunch of programs with them: education, health, sanitation, everything, lots of fancy workshops, everything was happening. But she looked at me very confused, and she was like, what do you mean what I'm going to do? I'm going to stay here, and I'll probably get married in a year or two when I hit puberty, and I will probably be a rat picker. I think that's a point where I knew that this problem is much bigger than who I am and my limitations. That's also the point where I knew that this is something I needed to pursue relentlessly. I needed to know, why is it that children perceive their potential in a certain way? I needed to know how trauma affects children, and I really needed to know how children can really truly realize their potential while they're children so that they can go forward.
Mm. Mm. No, it's very interesting, Richa. And as you were speaking, I'm also trying to. It seems ages ago, but I'm trying to reflect on my journey. And you spoke about your father. Interestingly, I don't think I ever heard the word entrepreneur till I got into my MBA. And even now, I struggle to spell entrepreneur. If not for the word spell check, I would be spelling it as N-U-E-R rather than N-E-U-R.
Yeah.
God knows how many times I make that mistake,
Yeah.
right? But my dad used to run a travel agency in, he was a travel agent, and I still remember vividly going to his small shop in Gandhi Bazaar. And when he used to come home for lunch or in the evening, I used to man the calls. So I used to take calls from customers, organize cars, and then customers used to call and say, "This guy is late." I mean, for all of you kids out there was an era when Uber and Ola didn't exist, right? And we were doing business in those times.
Yeah.
Uh, Looking back, that experience was fantastic because you were dealing with customers, you were dealing with their complaints, you were talking to drivers, and nobody had phones that time. So you still had to wait for the driver to call you from a landline,
Yeah.
right? And you had to call back. So it was kind of crazy. But one of the things that we've been talking at TYE is how do you get to intern with an entrepreneur, right?
Hmm.
If your parents, uncles, cousins, relatives have a business, I would say that there's nothing more exciting than going and spending a few days there because you get to understand the real world. That's one
Yeah.
thought that as you were mentioning, Richard, that came to my mind. The
Yeah.
second thing, you're talking about growing up, and some of the crazy things that have happened in college, which still gave me the kicks, was that I realized that there was this entrepreneurial streak in hindsight. That in the third year of my engineering college, there was a gang that came and said, you're not going to be a part of the college festival. Till then, I was always a part of college festivals. They said, no,
Mhm.
we're going to take over. I said, fine, but
Mhm.
will you allow me to do a side event? Anything that
Mhm.
I want to do on the side. And they said, what can this guy do? Let them do. And it
Mhm.
ended up that the side event became far more popular than the main event. And I had struck a deal where I said, I'll raise my own money, and whatever money I make, I get to keep it. I
Mhm.
ended up those days when my monthly expense was 300 rupees. I ended up with a surplus of 6,000 rupees, which had
Wow.
all of these guys saying, how the hell did you guys manage to make it? Now, if you look back, again, organizing a college festival or participating in a road track event, I was the president of a road track club. All
Hmm.
these are things that build up that you can later on in life connect the dots and say, you know what,
Yeah.
these are experiences that make me who I am today. So I can very much resonate to your thought. So tell us about Labhya. I mean, I know it's one thing to go and intern or do some community service, but it must have been crazy to take a call and say, I'm going to do a startup, that too as a non-profit.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for sharing that, definitely. So Labhya started as an idea in a very unusual place. Me, my co-founder Vedant and Malika, we all three of us met in this program called Gramimanthan, which is a 10-day intensive program in a remote village. And I think that's where Labhya was born and
Mhm.
the inception happened. And it was really interesting because all three of us come from very different backgrounds. And having said that, it was still difficult for us to, it was easy to decide that Labhya is going to happen and we're going to create it. But it was difficult to imagine where it is today. And I think a lot has gone behind the scenes in the organization itself. So I'll tell you a little bit about Labhya and then I'll
Yeah.
share how we started. So Labhya is a non-profit, as Madan mentioned. We started our journey in 2017. We work with children in public schools, and we ensure that these children have access to social emotional skills like grit and empathy and compassion and perseverance. And we do that by partnering with governments and multilateral organizations and nonprofits to ensure that a daily intensive social emotional learning class is happening in schools. And we ensure that these programs are happening at scale and are using the government machinery to enable the children, because we really believe in sustainable programs and making sure that Labhya is one part of the system, but the system as a whole has a lot of players and it's pretty much eternal. So that's basically what Labhya does. And of course, the idea of Labhya was born out of my various experiences of working with children, my co-founder's lived experience as a child, and Malika, third co-founder's experience as a very good student in a bad education system. So she ended up was a chartered accountant, but then still realized that that was not something that gave her fulfillment. One of the toughest things that we've had to deal with respect to Labhya has been introducing this idea of social emotional learning, something which is very new in India, something that does not have a lot of research. It's still building up, and in a space where education is looked at with a sort of a singular,
Yeah.
of course multiple, but sort of a singular lens of foundational literacy and numeracy. And I think as young people who were not experts on anything and who had sort of just jumped in, and honestly, what we jumped in with was, okay, if we move into a classroom where there are 15 children and they come out of a conversation about themselves and each other, knowing something more about themselves, A, and B, can they apply that information about themselves in their day-to-day lives? And if that is successful, what changes in the school environment? Very simple idea. There was no jargon in the beginning, and
Mm.
all of that. And I think the first year is still the most powerful year we had. We were rejected by about 79 schools. This is a crazy idea. Where is the research? You don't know
Mm.
what you're doing, etc., etc. We weren't asking for anything. We were just asking for 5 hours a week, no money, no nothing. And it was so powerful to be in those conversations with the children and document them, and then eventually realize that if children are able to understand more about themselves, their role in their family, the society, and the larger ecosystem, so much can change
Yeah.
just in that 40-minute conversation. So that communication of that idea led us to be who we are. But I think two things that come to my mind when it comes to talking about Labhya is the journey from intuition to intention. So
Mm.
things that were always, this seems like common sense, let's do this, and then intentionally saying, we're going to do it with these people, this is the research that backs it up, this is how we need to do it in order to do justice. I think that's been an incredible journey for us. And the second idea that so one of my professors recently articulated very well, and I'm sure I'm going to screw it up, but he said the best social enterprises are not necessarily the best ideas, but the best communicated ideas. And
Mm.
these 3 years have really taught me and our team a lot about articulation and really the meaning of articulation. And not just to communicate your idea and to get funding, of course, that's one part of it, but to really do justice to what you're doing. So I think these are the two
No, no,
things that.
absolutely. And to work with the Delhi government and kind of bring in the happiness curriculum into the schools of Delhi is no mean feat for a 3-year-old startup. Yeah.
No, thank you. I think that's been really incredible. I think a 19-year-old and a 21-year-old walking into this huge system with some of the most powerful people we have ever
Yeah.
met, and creating a curriculum with teachers, implementing it across 20,000 schools now has been incredible. And I think we're really grateful for not just the system who has believed in us, but also the people and the relationships we've had in this entire time.
Terrific. No, I mean, you know, I have always believed that every enterprise must have a social cause embedded deep into it, right? So when people say, "Oh, so you moved from an enterprise when I sold my company Meritrack to Manipal," it was an enterprise. It is an enterprise. And when I started doing OneBridge or Heidel High, a lot of people say, "So what's different on the other side? You're running a social enterprise." I
Mm.
keep saying that maybe there's no difference. Yeah, in my worldview or in our worldview, there's nothing called as an enterprise and a social enterprise. Maybe there's an enterprise
Yeah.
and an anti-social enterprise, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so the aspect that how can you do good, feel good, and
Mm.
in that process make good money is where
Yeah.
the social entrepreneurship and the social part in the entrepreneurship has to really play a role. So
Yeah.
for all of you out there, this session we were wanting to talk about entrepreneurship, especially Richa with your story and some of the work that Ved and Angad have started to do. I want to highlight that please go out there as entrepreneurs to solve some of the most pressing problems that our world faces because the world needs all of us to solve it, right? There's no way that you can solve it without an entrepreneurial mindset. And TYE, in a way, the program is all about how do you bring those entrepreneurial mindsets to play, right? So with that, which I'll come back to you with a few more questions,
Yeah.
but super inspiring to see the journey, and you're very understated. Maybe if I was there, I would be shouting from the rooftop, saying, "Hey, Delhi government schools use us," and all that stuff. We'll come back to more of that shouting a little later. But
Yeah.
with and Angad, it'll be wonderful to kind of hear about your journeys, right? I mean, you ended up in a program, you signed up for a program, you stayed the course, staying what 12 weeks into a program, working with people that you don't know, building a business plan and an idea and a plan around some of the wonderful ideas that you guys had. It'll be wonderful to hear from you on your experiences and reflections.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's really been a pleasure. First of all, Richa, it's been really fun hearing about your experiences. So I think I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Ved. I go to TISB, and I took part in the TIE cohort, Winter 2019 cohort, and I was fortunate enough to move on to the global finals. And it's really been an amazing experience. So I think the reason I really I joined the program was because I wanted to explore different interests, and I always aspired to start a business and to solve a problem really, and to make an impact on people. And but the problem was that I walked in and I didn't know the first thing about entrepreneurship, and I didn't know what it really was to start a business. But TIE has really been like a really fun and really insightful experience to hear all the entrepreneurs' stories and to be able to interact with the other students. And it's been an eye-opening experience because it's not something that you typically learn in a school. It's not just walking in and then writing notes and then walking out. It's been, you have that discussion. It's like a discussion forum. You don't have to be afraid to ask questions. You don't have to be afraid to give your own opinions. So it's been a really eye-opening experience. And after the cohort, after the sessions, starting our own business has been a really exhilarating experience. In the journey, I noticed that a lot of the situations we encountered were similar situations to what we were presented during the sessions. And there are definitely difficulties that you face when you start a business. But I think we all took a step back and we all decided that if we really wanted our idea to make it, then we would have to really put in that effort. And I think along with my co-founders, we were really able to put it into play. And I think one other thing that I have to say is I can't thank our mentors enough, because with their guidance, we were really able to advance and we were really able to do what we wanted to do. So I definitely think it's a challenging experience, but when you take a step back and when you look at the solutions that you've created and you look at how many people it can really impact, that's a really rewarding experience, and it's a really fun experience, truly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Angad,
sure.
would you like to
thank
introduce
Thank
you.
you.
yourself?
So I'm Angad. I study in National Public School, HSR layout, and I, along with Wade, joined the winter cohort 2019 session of TYE. And my experience with TiE has been memorable and really, really eye-opening. So in the first session with Madan sir, I remember Madan sir talked about this thing where he told me about the never give up. Like every entrepreneur has to go through some challenges, but he never has to give up, and that has uh, really had an impact on me throughout. From when I started TYE and went through running my own business with Wade, Rohan, and Atharv, and because we faced a lot of challenges, but we never gave up. And I think because of that, we were actually able to get selected for the global finals and go for the globals. And yeah, TiE has also so I started TiE as I was really interested in entrepreneurship, and I didn't know many courses, but my mom really when my mom was going through some news article, she found out about TiE and she enrolled me, thinking that I would be interested. And when I entered there, I the first few faces that I saw was Wade, and I knew Wade from he was in my school really long time, and I thought that it could be a really great experience as I know a few people, and this will really help me as I could start like a startup with them. And once I got to know them a little more, and I started my own startup. Our startup really went in different uh, a good way. Like it went to uh, a whole new level. Like the connection that we had, it really took our startup to a whole new level.
Terrific. Thank you, Angad. Thanks for sharing some of your thoughts. And why don't you guys talk about the startup idea that you guys worked on, Vox Populi? Give us some idea of what that idea is, and yeah, I'd love to hear more about that.
Sure. So basically, Vox Populi is a platform that allows the government and the BPL section of the society, that's below poverty section of the society, uh, to come together to cut down on uh, like malpractices and other stuff that happening at ration shops. Um, uh, so basically, what our plan was to do was, as we realized that in ration shops there are many malpractices that happens, and there's like a lot of leakage of like rice and other rice, wheat, or like other goods. So we really wanted to like come to we wanted to find out a solution where we could like stop this, and that's where we thought about um, Vox Populi, where it could be a platform where the government and the poor could collaborate together to stop this. I think Wade would like to explain more on that.
Yeah, it,
Absolutely, yeah. So, like Angad mentioned, the main aim of Vox Populi is to bridge the gap between citizens and the government, and we thought of several ways in which we could do this, and we ventured into things like polling, where we could allow citizens to vote on certain polls or maybe even create polls. But I think we finalized on and we focused most on the idea of the ration shops. And like Angad was mentioning, we saw all these problems of adulteration and overcharging people, especially those that are most vulnerable. And we decided that this was the problem we wanted to target. So we created the solution, which was basically to digitalize the PDS system, and we did that using we ventured into different kinds of things. So we thought about maybe delivering certain goods, and we thought about allowing people to pre-order certain items, and we eventually got onto a thing called blockchain, and we decided to leverage blockchain and to really be able to prevent all these problems from happening, because we identified these problems as you know we were kind of disgusted in a way that people of such vulnerable people could be violated in such a way. So
exploited. Yeah,
that was the reason why we went into this problem, and that's why we decided to create the solution.
fantastic. I think most of the if you hear most entrepreneurial journeys, it usually begins with a personal experience or a feeling of, as you said, disgust, or how can a system like this exist? Why can't we do something about it? Right, and that usually is the trigger for a lot of the work, seminal work that's happened. And to Ankad's point, these are not easy problems to solve, right? And it's not that, hey, let's solve for. I'm not saying it's relatively easier. Let's solve for food delivery in Kormangala. It is solved, right? But solving on how do you prevent exploitation of people from the most vulnerable societies, and to have them get their rightful dues and credit is a very hard problem to solve. And the only way that you can do it is to keep on iterating and never give up, right? So, well, Angad talked about never give up as one of the learnings between Angad and Ved. If you were to just reflect on what changed in those 12 weeks when you went into the program and when you came out, or even if you reflect now, what do you think have been your biggest aha moments that you thought, okay, this is something that I've learned, or I've understood this, or something like that? What would those be for you?
I think one of my biggest aha moments is um, like in an entrepreneur's journey, though he will face many ups and downs, he should never give up, because in the end it's going to benefit him. um, that was because I heard at TiE, I heard a lot of entrepreneurs coming and sharing their experiences and how their startup either went through a really bad time, but they still kept like they still was they were strong together. Like at least that team was held by some kind of a bond where they never gave up and then came out strong in the end, which really helped them to like set their company um, to a new level. So that's been like one of my aha moments.
Hmm. Hmm. Ved,
What about you, Ved?
yeah, what about you, Ved? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I walked out of there with a lot of new skills, not just the concepts that we learned, but also the subtle skills that I was able to pick up. And I'm really glad that I was able to learn these kind of things at such an early age, because I feel like when you grow up, there's a lot more on the line, and there's a lot more pressure, and you can't make mistakes without suffering severe consequences. And I think now I was able to really absorb the experiences and learn from the mistakes without suffering all those severe consequences. So I think I
Hmm.
definitely walked out of there with a brand new perspective. I think on learning as a whole, because it was a very different environment. Being able to interact with everyone and hearing all the entrepreneurs' different stories, and I think it was definitely a unique experience, and I think I developed a broader point of view. I feel like the skills from first learning the concepts to applying them while starting our own business, I think those are the skills that will really stick with me. But I think the absolute best thing that I was able to get from the whole journey were the experiences and the memories, honestly, because it was such a fun experience,
Hmm.
and I think
Hmm.
if I could do it all over again, I definitely would.
Wow. And what's the most fun thing that you remember from the program or the experience that you had?
I think every part of the program was a really fun experience. I think the best part of it was that it was a mix between all the different things, between interacting and hearing the stories. All the activities that we did, all the group projects that we did were all relevant to the concepts that we were learning, and hearing all these different perspectives that I wouldn't have thought of before. And having that forum to discuss, I think that was definitely that was one thing that I really appreciated of the program.
And what about you, Angad?
That's true. Because I feel one of my favorite sessions was the last session, which was held by Mr. Ravi sir, where we had like a mock startup session, mock start, mock startup pitch. Sorry, where we as a team, me, Ved, Athar, I had to present my pitch, and we actually got graded on that. That was a really interactive session, and that was a really memorable one for me. So, and I, my overall experience with TiE has been really wonderful, and I will always be grateful for TiE for giving me this exposure and this experience, which I'll never be able to forget.
Sure. And you guys made it to the global finals as well. How was that experience? I mean, to be able to pitch your idea to a global jury and a set of ideas of young people from various other parts of the world.
I think that was a really fun experience again, because and the thing is that challenges will come along the way definitely, and I think in our journey also we encountered several challenges, but with the guidance of the mentors, sometimes we had to backtrack on certain things, sometimes we had to cancel certain visions that we had, but I think the entire process was definitely eye opening for me because it wasn't something that I had really expected to get from the program. I thought it would just be just like coming in, maybe thinking of some kind of idea, and maybe just discussing the idea with others. But I feel like I was really able to learn a lot from other people's ideas as well, and that was something from the global competition which I really enjoyed. Not just pitching my own idea, but also being able to hear other people's idea. And
Yeah.
the best part was having the mentors, and of course my co-founders. I think they shared the same work ethic as me, and they shared the same vision as me, and that was definitely something I really appreciated.
Yeah. Terrific. Given that you've been through the experience, and I'm sure you must be, as you started out with, and Angad, I'm sure that's the case for you, that you will be considering entrepreneurship as an option, as a career option. And how do I become an entrepreneur, and what can I do? So, if you have any top of the mind questions, we have somebody who's been there, done that, a little ahead of you, Richa. So please feel free to shoot any questions, any thoughts, or any concerns, or any fears that you might have. And Richard, love to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, no. First of all, I think I'm so envious of Ved and Angad. Let me put it out there. I feel like this is a program I
I
needed when I
know.
was back in school. Um, so, so yeah, to be very honest, I was listening to you both and I was like, wow, I should have been there in ninth grade for sure. Every kid needs to have this. So yeah, that's there. Um, I think one of the questions I actually have for Vedan Angad is, what do you think pushed you to? I know there's one part of it which is where you found a problem that really bothered you, and that's what got you going, and that's what led to a lot of decisions that you made. But when you were making decisions as a team, and when you were making decisions for the enterprise, what was like the primary non-negotiable? What was something that you all were not willing to give up on? Whether was it an idea, or is something else? Would love to hear more about that.
I think the main idea which we did not give up on was that we wanted to help like the underprivileged people. That was like our main focus, and we wanted to do something so that we can help them. Like we should be able to give back to society. So we wanted to actually give back to society, and I think that was the main idea behind it. What pushed us to run this organization and enterprise.
Definitely, like Angad said, I think it was that shared aim, that shared goal, which really pushed us to do this, which was to help those in need. And I think uh, there were some instances where I had a certain idea, but we weren't able to actually put that into effect, and that certainly disappointed me. But I felt reassured that at the end of the day, we would create something that's bigger than us, and that would really have an impact on people. And that's what I think really pushed us to, and what really motivated us.
Terrific. Any questions from you guys to Richa, Ved, Angad? What would you?
I do have a question. So,
Yeah.
during our journey, there were some instances where, something was really frustrating. Maybe we hit a dead end, and I didn't really know how to move forward. And I just sat there and like I didn't know how we could make it happen. So, have you ever had those instances, and how did you overcome those?
Thank you. I think uncountable. Cannot put a number on that. I think that is the best and sort of the worst part of being an entrepreneur is that the whole idea of coming across a dead end is one of the biggest opportunities you have as an entrepreneur to practice entrepreneurship. But also it sometimes really bogs you down, and it affects your courage and your emotional bandwidth a lot of times. So it's definitely one of the good and bad things. I think one of the things as a team that has really helped us is really knowing in those times who owns what in the program and in the organization, because a lot of the times me and my co-founders are going out there, we're thinking of ideas, we're pitching ideas, we're doing fundraising, and it's very easy to forget that there is an entire team with us and there's an entire system working with us. So if that one thing or one funder, one opportunity does not work out, it's sometimes all right. And things will go on because we are not the sole people, we are not the nucleus of what's happening actually, of the change that we are trying to make. I think that's one thing that really keeps us going. And secondly, honestly, just relaxing and eating lots of food, because entrepreneurship can be very, very stressful. And I'm sure you already know, when you're hitting a dead end, when you don't have any idea what to do, it's just getting harder and harder every day. It's sometimes okay to just take some time out for yourself, which a lot of entrepreneurs, including me, find it very hard to do, especially at a young age, because we have all this energy and we know that we're very clear on where we want to go. We want things to happen fast, which is a good thing, which I think is great. I think it's sometimes okay to relax and find some people who really believe in you, who will talk about all the nonsensical things and not work, and just spend some time and then reboot and go back. So that's definitely been one thing. But I think one of the things that really helped us in the, and still, I mean, it's not like we're very old, is people finding people who relentlessly believe in you. It's good to get feedback. It's completely nice. There are multiple places for entrepreneurs to get feedback, whether it's from the ground, whether it's from mentors, funders, everyone. But sometimes it's really okay to have a person who just believes in you and says, it's all right, just go ahead and do it. It's fine, you'll work it out, everything will be okay. And I think that is something that's very, very important for us to have, because sometimes we get really stuck in this whole idea of criticism and feedback, but what we really need is belief. And feedback is a process of iteration, like Manan said. It's a part of the never give up space that you have to be in as an entrepreneur.
Wonderfully said, Richard. I think just to add a couple of other points, I would argue that if you're not having those moments very often, which in some cases can be almost every day, that what the hell am I doing? How do I go forward? You're not in a startup, or you're not trying to solve a large enough problem, right? So I would worry that if you're not having that problem, then it's too easy, right? The other way around, and I can't, underscore that whole thing better, that it's finally, well, of course, you'll get mentors, you will listen to feedback, experts. Finally, it's your gut feel. It's your intuition, it's your belief, right? And I think as I shared in our session as well, one of my favorite all-time movies is Kung Fu Panda, which is all about how does the panda become the dragon warrior, right? Which is all about the belief that if you don't believe you can solve it, you'll never solve it. And once the belief exists, you'll keep going at it, come what may. In multiple forms or avatars, it doesn't matter. It's not about the startup; it's about the purpose, right? With that, Angad, is there any question that or any thought that you want to share with us? I know we see Geeta here. Welcome, Geeta, and look forward to, maybe we'll do this. We'll come back to you soon after Angad has shared his thought or question.
I don't think I have anything else to share, but I would like to thank TiE once again for giving me this opportunity, for being here, and for giving me that experience that I had over that 12 weeks.
Wonderful. You know, I'm
Being with
glad
TiE.
that it's helped, and we would definitely want to see every person who comes out of TYE, every young person, go on to become a unicorn. Not just in terms of valuation, but the billions of smiles that you can create in the world around you. My definition of a unicorn is the valuation of the number of smiles that you can create. And I'm sure with the passion, the intent that each of you have brought to the table and to your journeys, I'm sure that's going to happen. Before we come back to another set of questions and conversations, let me welcome Geeta, TiE charter member. She's really the entrepreneur behind the TYE program, and she's the one who conceptualized it in Boston several years ago. And delighted to have you with us, Geeta, and love to get your words and perspectives in for TYE.
Oh, great! Nice to be here, and I was listening to the story of Richa about Labhya and all that. Very impressive story, and of course, Madan. We go back several years, and what you have accomplished in Head Held High and a few other programs is really amazing, and great to be among such accomplished people here. So, and also worked with Angad and Ved, and also your partner Rohan, and I've given Rohan quite a few opportunities to pitch at a couple of our events. Yesterday we had a introduction to entrepreneurship program at Dayanand Sagar University, and there were about 60 students, college students, who participated and wanted to know about it. And then Rohan spoke so eloquently yesterday. It was amazing. So TYE was not my idea. It was an inspiration by my son. He was 15 at the time in 2005, and his late father was a PhD in cytogenetics from Berkeley, California, and he was also an MD from Harvard. And so I was just, encouraging Sham to go in that route and, become a doctor or a PhD or one of those things. But when he was at age 15, he came to me and said, I don't want to follow my father's footsteps. I want to be an entrepreneur. I was like, it took me a couple of days to get over the shock. At that time, he had lost his father at that time. And so then the only person, then next day he brings 5 of his classmates and he says, we all want to start a company and we don't know how, and we want you to teach us how to do this. So then I took this idea to Dr. Guru Raj Deshpande. Everybody calls him Desh. He is a very, very big legend in the United States. And so I took it to him. He's still our chairman emeritus for TiE Boston chapter. And so he said, let's start, let's get this going. So the very first program we had was we wanted to have an open event with parents and their children, mostly our members at that time. And we had 45 kids that signed up for this program the very first time. And the panel discussion was very, very interesting. We had a panel discussion where we had a young man who was 16 or 17 who had just started a company. And then we had a growth stage company, which was led by about a 25-year-old guy and a 35-year-old woman who had already taken it to the next level. Then at the end, we had Desh, who was in his 50s at that time, and he was talking about his successes, etc. A very humble discussion. After that, about 40 kids signed up. And that's how TYE in Boston was born in 2005. Then we ran this program for a couple of years, and the TiE Global Organization used to recognize this as the best education program that TiE ever had. And so in 2008, I went to Houston to receive the award myself, because that time they had a TiE Global Summit at that time. And when I was coming down the stage, the chairman of TiE Global and the Desh and then our the very respected charter member at that time, Prahalad, C.K. Prahalad, who wrote the TiE bylaws at the time. They were all sitting in the table and they called me and they said, you're being very selfish running it in the Boston chapter. Then I said, what do you want me to do? Then they said, let's make it a global program. Then I said, if you support it, I will definitely do that. And that's how in 2009, this TYE program became a global program, global education program. And we had 5 chapters that participated in this program. And we had the first TiE Global Business Plan competition at MIT in Boston. And the video is still on the YouTube. And that's how the TYE Global got started. And fast forward today, we have something like about 30 plus chapters that participate in this program. So at the chapter level, they have a business plan competition because kids love competition. And so the first prize winner, they go to North America typically, and they compete for the global prize. This last year, the global competition completely was, virtual. That was another innovative thing that they did. And I saw these kids, Wade and Angad and also Rohan, pitch at the global competition. It was amazing. And, we teach. And one uniqueness about this program is this is not taught by faculty. This is taught by people like, our charter members. And they bring their personal and experiences into the program, and kids love it, and they learn so much. It's really amazing. And Madan, of course, has been involved in this program ever since it started, and we are very, very grateful to that. And the kids, I have seen them, spark. The program sparks their creativity to a great level, and then they learn, they get the self-confidence. I don't know where they get it, but through the program. In the beginning they're very shy, and they hardly speak, but towards the end of the program they don't have enough time to talk about their ideas and all that, so it gives that confidence. And they learn so many skills like leadership, team building skills, and they also learn things like canvas thinking and design thinking. These are some of the courses that are not even taught in colleges worldwide. I'm talking colleges today, and it's amazing because it is all brought to the stage by all entrepreneurs like Madan here, and we are very, very grateful to all of them. And today, looking back, we have impacted over 10,000 students around the world, and we have about 100 plus companies, or even more. I would say 200 plus companies were started by 15-year-olds. And when somebody tells me that, oh, I'm 25, I've started a company, and I'll say to them, you're too old. In TYE, we have 15-year-olds. 15-year-olds, oh my God, I thought we were the youngest entrepreneur here, and I tell them we have 15-year-olds who have started companies. And, I tell one thing to all the students. And one thing is, these students, they get to pitch to investors around the world, and even in Bangalore and around the world, they pitch to investors. And these people on the jury, they come and tell us, these pitches are much, much better in quality than the adults who pitch to them for funding. It's amazing. It never fails,
Wow.
And
Yeah.
the ideas are amazing. And for the first time in 2008, I was in DC, in the competition, and I was physically there at that time. And there were two companies, one from Canada, which had a wonderful idea about putting a chip in the wrist of a person who is diabetic. And so that chip monitors the glucose levels constantly, so they don't have to have an external chip. Amazing idea. Then we had these 4 girls, 16-year-olds, who came from Chennai, and they had a wonderful, wonderful idea about tea and healthy tea. Oh no, they had an idea about having a platform for, India is a medical tourism place for African countries and other countries, because we have very good medical system here in healthcare system in India. So these people come, but the middlemen, they get involved with the clients, potential clients, and they swindle the money from them, and they don't even give them proper treatment, right? They take them to a ride, and then they go back very unsatisfied. These girls came up with a program, a platform where they can manage this entire, connecting the dots between the patients directly to the medical care system, doctors and hospitals, and so that they will eliminate the middlemen, so that the patients get the right care that they. Amazing idea. These girls were so small, they were standing behind the podium, Madan. We could not even see them.
Wonderful.
They were so small. So we asked them to come out of the podium, and and in the deliberation room, I was there. The judges had such difficult time deciding the number one person. So we said, you know what? The heck with it. Just split the prize into two prizes. And that was an amazing story that I can share today. And they had to split the prize between the two teams. And these girls, they did not have money to travel to United States. And the chapter president said, you have to find money yourself. You know what? They went to all the charter members, they collected the money for their travel, and then they went to United. Amazing story. Another amazing.
They really deserve to be the entrepreneurs then. Yeah.
Yeah. And another amazing story that I can share is in Boston 2008, we had a competition, and there were 3 girls and 2 boys in one team. They had this idea in the green technology, and they did not even come in the top 5 at the end of the competition. So the girls were sitting in the back, they were crying. And I went to them and I said, why are you crying? They said, we didn't even come in the top 5. We worked so hard and all that. And I told them this, winning is not everything. You don't know what are the opportunities you are going to get in your life in the future. But take the learning that you had and apply it in your life, and you will become very successful people. Then 1 month later, one of the girls wrote to me saying that, ma'am, we have been chosen as the entrepreneur the team that is going to present at Buckingham Palace to the Queen of England.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And they told me, ma'am, you asked us to stop crying. We have never cried since.
No, I'm
So,
sure. Yeah, these are all stories that warm the cockles of the heart.
and
And that is what makes it worthwhile, right? Yeah.
amazing. So I even told this Angad's team that, don't worry about winning. That is not the
Yeah.
end game here. Do your best. Whether you win or not, that's a different
Yeah.
thing, because the jury will
Absolutely.
select. But believe in your idea and take it forward. I think they are taking it forward.
Oh,
And
lovely.
that is all I can say about this program.
Very
And the chair, the leadership of TYE at the global level has told me that, Geeta, there are millions and millions of students outside of the TiE community who can learn. If you want to implement this program, go ahead. We have no problem. So I'm slowly working on that. And now we are working on bringing this TYE community worldwide together on a platform. We are working on it. So that
wonderful.
is something that is coming. So
Thank you,
that's,
Geeta. Thanks for sharing your experiences. Yeah. No,
yeah,
and it's, we got so excited. I still remember when we ran it for the first time in Bangalore.
yeah,
A lot of us were a bit hesitant to say, how will it go? Will kids like it? And what will old fogies like us teach young people on entrepreneurship and all that stuff? But I think the success of the first program has spurred us on to do. I think what Lakshmi, Geeta, this is the 5th edition that we are launching now, right?
I know.
Yeah, this is the 5th edition.
Fifth,
Yeah.
cohort.
5th cohort.
Fifth cohort.
Yeah.
It's really amazing, and so many good things have happened to the graduates, and they are keeping a tab of that. I think Mugdha and Lakshmi, they are working on it. It's
Exactly.
really amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. And I think with that, we are coming to the end of our hour. The 5th cohort is starting soon, as you will see the line flashing on your screens. So,
Yes.
all of you, those who are watching, those who know people who can benefit from this, who have friends, relatives, please refer them, because the need of the hour is really not to, as Geeta was saying, we have to take this out to the millions. One of the questions I've got, and I'm sorry, apologize that we are not able to take a lot of questions, but one of the questions that come up is, why should everybody be an entrepreneur? Right? And my response to that is 2 things. One is, everybody need not be an entrepreneur, but entrepreneurial thinking is one of the most critical 21st century skills. Whether
Yeah.
you're an entrepreneur or not, how do you think entrepreneurially is going to be the most valued skill set that you can have, that everybody will be after you to get that resource in their own organization. Secondly, I would argue that India needs and the world needs a lot more of you to go on to be entrepreneurs, not just for the sake of building high valuation entities, but to create jobs.
Right.
We will have about 150 million youth entering the workforce the next 10 years. And if each one of you who are on the show, who are coming through TYE, don't go out and create 1,000+ jobs each, I don't think there is hope. And I think we're doing a disservice, because each one of you can go on to create such wonderful worlds. And why should we settle for anything less?
Right.
Right? So, with that, Richa, Ved, Angad, any last words as we sign off from the show? Richa?
Yeah, thank you so much for this really, really inspiring session. And thank you, Geeta, for sharing. I think that's been my highlight of the day. Just knowing and just being reiterated the whole potential that we have around us, including myself, because I'm not that old yet. um, but I think one of the things I'm definitely taking away today is this whole energy around the call about the never give up attitude. I think that's something that I really draw from a lot of people around me. And as I said, it's only people who have made this journey possible, and people who are going to make it possible further. So really taking that energy with me. And thank you so much, Ved and Angad, for sharing your journey. I'm really, really inspired. And I'm definitely going to keep in touch with you right after this. And thank you, TIE and TYE. I'm sure I'm going to recommend a lot of people to this program for sure. And thank you, Madan, again for thinking of
Thank
me.
you, Richa. Thank you for joining in, making your time for this session. Thank you, Madan. As always, you've been a very good support to us, all of us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you for your time. Thank you, guys. Ved and Angad.
Thank you so
It's
much
my
for having
pleasure.
us.
Thank you. And have a great evening and a good weekend. And look forward to having a lot of you join us at TYE next cohort. Thanks a
Sure.
lot.